It really is. There are 10, 20 deep, I suppose, all around the paddock here. Everyone trying to have a last glimpse at their fancy in order to know where to put their parks. Who trains, very good trainer. He's handled this horse tremendously well. Owner Jim Clements. He's 14 to 1 from 12s. Don't expect to see him too soon. He'll come late. Stone Jonathan Lower rides this fellow, 50 to 1 shot. Well, until he was beaten last time, he'd set up a right old sequence. He's untested over this trip, and I'd just be quite surprised if he won it. Although he's a decent horse and Martin Pipe is a genius, I just think he may be biting off a bit. He's by the sprinter John de Coombe, and that's where he gets his colour. He certainly did so the last twice, but once they start thinking like that, Bill, is this going to be too big an occasion?
It may just, with all the excitement and the buzz and the hub of all the crowd, it may just switch him on a bit, and he may get a little bit revved up and decide to jump off.
Mark Richards rides. Mark's in great form at the moment. He's had 2 previous rides.
At the moment, 7 to 1. Big Sun, 8 to 1. Durham Edition, 9 to 1. Call Collect and Renus with Go Far, 14 to 1. Incidentally, the team that won the 1988 race is on Go Far, and it's been reduced from 20s to 16s to 14 to 1, so there's money there. Bonanza Boy, 15 to 1. Uncle Merlin, 16s. Mr. Frisk, 16 to 1. 20 to 1 bar.
By the oldest rider in the race, 45-year-old Raymond Martin on Call Collect. And behind him, Pucker Major, one of the 2 greys, ridden by Mark Richards, 30 years old, his 3rd ride in the race. Pucker Major, winner of 14 of his 47 races. He's followed by Mark Pittman on Gainsay, 23-year-old Mark on his with the white sleeves. Gainsway with the star just turning away from it. And then looking at it now, you can spot his number there. Number 22 is Torside. That, of course, is Jimmy Frost, 31-year-old Jimmy Frost. Here's Garley's image, nearest to us, the darker sleeves.
So, Big Sun gone from 10s to 8 to 1. A Durham Edition is 9 to 1. Call Collect, 12s from 14s. Rhinus, 14 to 1. So is Go Far. And remember, that opened at 20s. Bonanza Boy, 16 to 1. Uncle Merlin, same price, 16 to 1. And so is Mr. Frisk. 20 to 1 bar.
And that's Lanaveau over on the far side that I mentioned. And a carriage clock, and Dick Francis, who's here this afternoon signing copies of his book, was the judge for the best turned out horse. Dick, of course, who I need hardly tell you, in 1956 had that heartbreaking experience for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, on Devon Lock, who was clear of the field halfway up the run-in when he unaccountably, opposite the water jump, well over halfway up the run-in, he unaccountably collapsed. And that year, the race was won by ESB. This is Brown Windsor. It's 50 years since a horse of his age won the National, 7 years old, but his rider, Brown Powell, Brendan Powell, I should say, is no stranger to success. He won it in '88 on Rhyme and Reason. He's 29 years old, and this is his 4th ride. Durham Edition is upside him. Durham Edition would be an immensely popular winner in the racing world because its trainer is 70 today, and the little farriery here associated with Polyphemus. Off 7 to 1 Big Sun, opened at 10, 9 to 1 Durham Edition, steady in the market. 14 to 1, he's taking a little walk probably on account of the ground. Call Collect. 14 is Renus, 14 to 1 Go Far, and 16 to 1 those, and they're being called in. Keith Brown is calling them in now. The 38 runners are under starters' orders. Right over the stand side is Polyphemus with Teep Challenge. Over on the far side, Go Far, Joint Sovereignty and Conclusive are together. Bob Tisdall's a little out of line at the moment. Conclusive has just turned to join him. Go Far has to turn. When Go Far turns, it looks as though they'll be in a pretty good line. Lanaveau on the near side a little bit, and they're away. They're running. And they're off to a very good start, racing towards the Melling Road with Hungry Her up there, West Tip on the outside, Polyphemus on the inner, and Charter Hardware also. And it's Charter Hardware, Polyphemus, Hungry Her, Solaris over on the outside, followed by West Tip. And over on the outside is Brown Windsor as they race down towards the first. Charter Hardware's the leader, Solaris in the centre, and over to John Hanmer.
The Hardware on the inside, Stars Delight right up there on the outside. A bad peck by Bob Tisdall, but he's all right. And they've jumped the first, and the faller was Gala's Image at the first, and over the second it's Stars Delight out in front in the centre of the course, then Uncle Merlin, Brown Windsor, GA. They're all over the second. Mr. Frisk is up there too, and coming to the third, the open ditch. And Uncle Merlin landed just in front, a very slow jump by Brown Windsor, and faller there was Thinking Cap. And as they go to the fourth, it's conclusive as another faller at that one, and as they go over the next, it's Stars Delight, Uncle Merlin, and Polyphemus and Charter Hardware, and over to Julian Wilson.
Stars Delight, the grey on the far side, Uncle Merlin, and GA as they come to the fifth, and over that Uncle Merlin led over it from Stars Delight on the far side, Mr. Frisk. On the stand side is Polyphemus going really well, and Charter Hardware's behind him as they come down to Beecher's Brook. And the leaders as they come to Beecher's are Uncle Merlin, Stars Delight and Mr. Frisk. Those three fly it. Polyphemus is over fourth. All the leaders are over Beecher's. Lanaver is a faller at the back, and Monabo's made a bad mistake, and Young Driver's almost come to a standstill, but the rest are over as they jump the seventh, with Uncle Merlin leading by a length and a half from Polyphemus. Mr. Frisk is third, then Stars Delight on the outside, Pucker Major and Brown Windsor, then GA and Charter Hardware. Behind that is Mixed Star and Renus as the Young Driver's been pulled up at the back as they jump the canal turn. Uncle Frisk, the American, jumps it ahead of Polyphemus. Uncle Merlin, rather, I should say. Uncle Merlin, the leader from Polyphemus, and Mr. Frisk, then Pucker Major on the outside of Brown Windsor as they jump the next. Uncle Merlin, Polyphemus, Mr. Frisk, Brown Windsor, then Pucker Major and Renus and GA. Behind those are Charter Hardware and Mixed Star and Hungry Her as we rejoin John Hanmer.
And Uncle Merlin led over that. From in second place, Mr. Frisk. Third is Polyphemus. 4, Brown Windsor. 5, Pucker Major. Then comes Renus and Hungry Her and GA and Charter Hardware and Stars Delight over the next open ditch. And still Uncle Merlin from Mr. Frisk, Polyphemus, Pucker Major, Brown Windsor, Hungry Her, Renus, then Charter Hardware and Mixed Star, and then Bob Tisdall and GA, and then Durham Edition as they jump the 12th fence, and Uncle Merlin the leader from Polyphemus, then Mr. Frisk, Pucker Major, Brown Windsor, Renus, Mixed Star, then Solaris and Hungry Her on the outside, and then Bob Tisdall making ground, then Solaris and Suggest, and then comes Charter Hardware, Durham Edition, Big Sun, and then GA, and they're followed by Nautical Joke, and then Huntworth, and there are plenty more in it behind that as they go towards the 13th with Uncle Merlin the leader from Polyphemus and Mr. Frisk, Pucker Major, Brown Windsor, and Bob Tisdall, and over to Peter O'Sullivan.
Yes, still Uncle Merlin and Hugh Davis from Polyphemus. Then comes Mr. Frisk just in behind them. Then Brown Windsor and Pucker Major the grey. Behind them is Bob Tisdall. Then Hungry Her, and Stars Delight has been pulled up before the fence. Stars Delight has been pulled up there, racing down towards the next. Uncle Merlin and Mr. Frisk, these two from Polyphemus. Then Brown Windsor, then Pucker Major, then comes Renus. Behind Renus, Hungry Her and Bob Tisdall. And now they're racing towards the chair for the only time, number 15. And Gainsayer's gone, and Monanora's gone, and Uncle Merlin is in the lead from Mr. Frisk and Polyphemus and Brown Windsor. Uncle Merlin there from Mr. Frisk. Brown Windsor, mistake there by Polyphemus, but he gets away with it, racing towards the water. Huntworth went there. On the near side, Mr. Frisk. On the far side, Uncle Merlin. Brown Windsor jumps it third. Renus jumped it 4. Suggest 5. 6 is Polyphemus. 7 and 8 are Mixed Star and Pucker Major. Just in behind them come Course Hunter. Behind Course Hunter is Durham Edition, and behind Durham Edition is Solaris, and then comes Big Sun. Bob Tisdall's on the outside, crossing the Melling Road. Uncle Merlin on the inside of Mr. Frisk. A long gap then to Brown Windsor, then on the outside Suggest. Up with them is Renus and Pucker Major, and as they race towards the next, It's Mr. Frisk and Uncle Merlin from Renus and Brown Windsor and over to John Hanmer.
At the 17th, and Uncle Merlin landed in front of Mr. Frisk, then Renus, Brown Windsor, then on the outside Suggest, followed by Packer Major, and then Polyphemus, Durham Edition getting closer, Mixed Star on the inside, Course Hunter getting right into it on the inside as they jump the 18th. And still Uncle Merlin from Mr. Frisk, Renus, Brown Windsor, Suggest, then Durham Edition, Packer Major and Course Hunter as they jump the 19th, and it's still Uncle Merlin from Mr. Frisk and Renus, then Brown Windsor, Durham Edition, Suggest, Packer Major, Course Hunter and Polyphemus, then Bartris, Mixed Star, Big Sun getting a smack with the whip, then last of the Brownies, followed by Nautical Joke. And the faller there was Joint Sovereignty, and Hungry has been pulled up and tailed right off is against the grain, and also right out the back Bob Tizzle and GA as we join Julian Wilson.
As they run down towards Beeches for the second time, with Uncle Merlin who's made almost every yard of the running. Mr. Frisk is up there with him. These two are clear, Uncle Merlin and Mr. Frisk, as they come to Beeches for the second time. The American horse leads over Beeches, jumps it very big, gets away with it. Mr. Frisk, oh, but he's unseated his rider. Uncle Merlin has unseated his rider at Beeches, but all the other leaders have jumped the fence as they come to the 23rd, and Mr. Frisk is leading the Grand National field from Renus, who's now second, Suggest is third, then Brown Windsor fourth, and then after that is Durham Edition and Bartris as they come to the canal turn where there's a major obstruction after an incident on the first circuit, and Mr. Frisk leads over the canal from Suggest over in second, Renus is over in third, then Brown Windsor and Durham Edition, then Bartris and Packer Major getting closer, then Course Hunter and last of the Brown is starting to get into it, and Big Sun who's also starting to get into it, but Mr. Frisk is clear by 10 lengths from Suggest in second, Renus third, then Brown Windsor and Durham Edition and Bartris, and last of the Brownies and Packer Major and Course Hunter and Big Sun, and they're well clear as we rejoin John Hanmer.
And four to jump for Mr. Frisk, who still has a 10-length lead from in second place Suggest. Third is Renus, four Durham Edition, five is Brown Windsor, and Mr. Frisk well over the fourth last. From Renus, Durham Edition's gone third past his stable companion Suggest, then Brown Windsor, last of the Brownies Bartris and Big Sun, and then comes Course Hunter over the third last. Mr. Frisk still clear of Renus, who's been challenged for second by Durham Edition. A gap then to Suggest. Nautical Joke has gone there, and behind Suggest as they run across the milling road is Brown Windsor and last of the Brownies, but Mr. Frisk the leader with Renus second, and in third place Durham Edition. These are clear of Suggest and Brown Windsor, and last of the Brownies as we rejoin Peter O'Sullivan.
Mr. Frisk about 10 lengths clear with two left to jump, ridden by Marcus Armitage. Then comes Renus and Durham Edition. In third, there's a long gap then to Brown Windsor and Suggest, and last of the Brownies, who's been making steady progress. They're coming down to the second last now. Mr. Frisk lands in the lead. Durham Edition jumps in second. He's been second before. They're racing to the final fence now, and it's Marcus Armitage from Chris Grant. It's Mr. Frisk from Durham Edition. Mr. Frisk lands 2 lengths clear of Durham Edition, but Durham Edition is making ground all the time. It's Mr. Frisk from Durham Edition as they race towards the elbow. Durham Edition, is he going to win on Arthur Stevens' 70th birthday? He's making ground all the time towards the stand side, but Mr. Frisk is holding him at the moment. They've got 150 yards to run. Mr. Frisk from Durham Edition as they race towards the line. Mr. Frisk is going to win it. Mr. Frisk has won it. Durham Edition is